you to you live this time in the automobile. We are in for a treat because we are going to talk about 3 horror stories, and really, I actually have a little bit more than that, but three sounded really cool. We're going to talk about stories about number 1, questions you should be asking your potential uh, listing agent. Number 2, how systems when you buy a home can actually save you days, if not weeks, of time. And number 3, questions you ask me that I will not answer for you. We're going to talk about those 3 things. Super important. Let's dive in. First story coming at you. So I'm going to move this up just a little bit. So I had an experience just the other day. So I go in for a listing appointment with some friends of mine, and these friends are good friends, and we have a relationship. And part of my questions, I do this little pre-listing. I do have a system, and part of my system for getting people on the same page and finding out what they want, what I want, is doing a pre-listing interview. And what we do is I talk, and one of the questions I ask is, are you planning on using any other realtors? And it's kind of a shocking question to a lot of people. I even ask if people are planning on going for sell by owner, just because I like to investigate. I like to know who my competition is. Sometimes my competition is not another realtor, but it is someone else who's selling their home. But in this case, I asked about some, if they were, and they said, no, we're choosing you. So we make a plan, which is great. And everyone, free market, everyone can feel free to do what they want. And we make a plan to list their house such and such date. And I follow up with them, and I'm like, yeah, how's it coming? They go, it's good. And we still need to do a couple more repairs and this, that, and the other. A week later goes by. I get a text from the wife. And I can't tell you how many deals I've lost because wives choose a female realtor. But that's not the point. She tells me, hey, we're going to be using another realtor, and I just think it'd be better because she lives right around the corner. And I was like, that's really interesting because, what am I going to do if someone's in the house and I live around the corner? Am I going to go spy on them with binoculars, or I don't know. I didn't really understand. I think it was her friend, and she wanted to use her friend. Just wanted to change her mind. But the question I wanted to ask, and I just said, hey, cool, support you, great, awesome, catch you next time. If you can refer me, that's kind of my thing, is like, I'll build goodwill and help where I can, because until the documents are signed, I'll answer anything, right? But what I wanted to say is, like, are you aware that did you ask them how many listings they've closed, or what percentage of listings they've closed in the last 12 months? Or 24 months. I actually know their data on the last 24 months, because they're actually in the last 24 months, they've only sold 2/3 of their homes. A third of them have gone back on the market, including their own home. They couldn't sell their own home, which is super interesting because it had to go through a price reduction. Anyway, you have to ask the right questions. How many deals does your realtor do? Or do you have any specialties? When people choose me, I can tell them exactly what value I bring to the table. Hopefully they're choosing me because, one, we share the same why and vision of what we want Idaho to be. That's the number one. There are locals who believe that. There are out-of-staters who believe that. Is number one. I want to align myself with people who want to keep Idaho, Idaho. That is number one, my thing. I want to keep Idaho, Idaho. Number two, how we do that is I do superb marketing. And if I can get people to see what I bring in a value proposition, I'm pretty confident, and not arrogantly confident, just statistically confident and factually confident, that I bring more value than the next guy. And that's my point of this, is not to go into all those details. But I do more, and I provide more, and I spend more. So that's that thing. So the big takeaway from this first story is, know who you're working with by asking the right questions. Do you know which questions to ask? By the way, my name is Brian Hymas, and I am seeing if there's any chats that come in. Good. No chats yet. I want your chats. So your questions, your chats, your comments. My name is Brian Hymas, born and raised here in the Boise Valley. My number one goal is to keep Idaho, Idaho. So if that's bringing you here and keeping Idaho, Idaho, or if that is, you're transplanting from one end of town to the other, I want to keep Idaho, Idaho. And I hope that's your goal too. I was an appraiser for a couple of years, born and raised in Boise. I was in Eagle for the last 7, moved out to Middleton just recently. And we love Idaho. We love having our own space, the pride of ownership. The founding fathers said life, liberty, and, do you know what they said originally? Life, liberty, and anyone? life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. And they changed that to happiness. Property is a huge thing. Owning a piece of Idaho is a huge deal. The second story I have. Okay, I cannot answer every question you have when listing your home. Why is that? Because if you chose another realtor, and this is from experience, if you choose another realtor and your client is asking me, hey, how come my house isn't this has happened at least 2 times in the last 2 months and probably like 4 or 5 times in the last 4 or 5 months. And you ask me, why is it not selling? Why am I not getting showings? How many showings should I be getting? How many people are buying houses right now? One, I legally can't interfere, right? So if your strategy with your realtor is legit and you are let's say you guys have a strategy, list high and come down. That's your strategy. Not the best strategy. Every realtor would agree on that one. You want to name the right price. But let's say you just say, like I've had a client before who says, I want to list high and we'll come down low. We'll come down just because we have time. Yeah, we'll just test it. Great. You know what? That's your choice. I wouldn't agree with it, but I get where you're coming from. Let's say we have that, like me and that client have that relationship. And then another realtor says, oh, your house is listed too high. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. That's interference, right? I can't legally get in the way of somebody else. One, you might have a strategy. 2, you could be wrong. 3, you could be right. No idea. It's wrong for me to get involved. So when you come at me and you choose the wrong realtor and you want to know weekly updates, or you want to know how's the market doing, you want to know how many showings you should be getting at your price range, and you come to me for the answers, that's a huge sign to me that you might have chosen the wrong realtor, because your realtor is not giving what you want. Number one thing clients want out of a realtor, do you guys know what it is? They want communication. Number 2, they want the realtor to do what they say they'll do. No, those are 2 simple, basic things. If you chose the wrong realtor and he or she doesn't communicate with you, that one's you got to do your homework. When I do my listing, I tell people how often they expect to hear me. Tuesdays today is my listing updates. I give updates on all my listings. So that's that. Number 3 story, we're going to go to 2 buyers who are closing in 6 days from today. I have had a ton of buyers who fit this perfect client scenario. When you're my perfect client, I'm also your perfect realtor. Let me tell you how this works. Because when these people came to town, before they came to town, we did the Zoom call. And on the Zoom call, I'm about to sneeze, so I might stop here in a second. And when we did the Zoom call, so we talk, whether it's phone or email, we text, we talk. And eventually we'll get you on a Zoom call to make you an Idahoan, right? We want to get you a Zoom call, and maybe you're already in Idaho. Keep Idaho, Idaho. And we'll talk. And there's like 10 questions I ask, and I sprinkle them in there, but it's all strategic because it's based on things I need to know to basically figure out what you need for yourself. And one of the things we talk about precisely, I should say, like very importantly, if that's even the right way of saying it, is we talk about elimination. That when you go to a buffet, you don't go to a buffet and be like, oh, I'll try like a teaspoon of this, a teaspoon of that, tablespoon of this, a scoop of that, maybe some dessert. Like, no, when you go house shopping, if you go with blinders on, it is the best way to buy a home. What do I mean by that? If you go and eliminate and say, man, you know what, today I need some proteins. I'm more keto today, whatever. And you need proteins. You need to get some steak. You need to get some eggs. You want to go light on the dressing. You want a vinaigrette instead of a ranch. Like, what you're dialed in on. Then when you go to that buffet, you're gonna leave super satisfied. If you go there and try a bunch of things and fill up on a bunch of this, that, and the other, you're not gonna leave as satisfied. And elimination is a huge part of the game. So this family, they close in 6 weeks. This couple, they're from Oregon. They have been, just like many of my past buyers have been, perfect clients. We found water in the crawl space because the people who had the house before them found water. And I literally called up the agent. I said, what's the deal with the water? And she told me the whole issue. And okay, sounds good. I told my agents right there in the room. I say, okay, there's water and they said, is that a big deal? I said, it's not a big deal. What is a big deal is if we don't know the source of the water and we don't know how to remedy it. If you can remedy mold or water, you are fine. It really is not a big deal. But when you have a buyer who listens to you and trusts you, like a lot of my people do, we can get through these things. So they've used and that's just one. So that's the point of that story was so the husband is on the phone with the wife because she wasn't in town that time, and she said, "Oh, but there's water." I could hear her. There's water in the crawl space. He said, "Brian said it's not a big deal," and like that trust means a ton. But that's awesome. That trust is gained through doing those repetitions with them, through Zoom calls, through text, through emails, through looking at homes, through eliminating things. And the other thing that happened with them is when we made an offer. We were going to write an offer on this house that they're getting in this next week. She said, and this is a very, very common question. She said, "Are there other homes that fit our criteria that we haven't seen yet?" And when we follow, which is the fear of missing out, right? When we follow the system that I have developed and stolen, and a large piece, all pieces of it are stolen from somewhere, but I'll just say I've developed. When we follow that, we don't miss out on any homes. We don't overpay on any homes. You can see my shadow when I'm number 2. We don't miss out on any homes, and we avoid buying 11. Those are the 3 things we want to do when buying a home. Is that whole process, the 1, 2, 3 easy buying process, to keep Idahoans in Idaho and keep Idaho by bringing the right people here. That is what happens when we follow that process. Is the right people come, they don't waste time, they save hours, if not weeks, in doing this thing, because we are eliminating and not using a process of selection, if that makes sense. So, guys, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear where you're coming from. We've got quite a few people on actually right now. This is one of my higher attended lives right now. So if you have any questions, tell me where you're coming from. And if you're live, let me know live as well. My name is Brian Hymas, born and raised here in the Boise Valley. And keeping Idaho is my number 1 goal. And if you fit that, then I am, obviously tickled pink to work with you. And there's no greater compliment that I can receive than a text, phone call, or email from you saying that you would like to make Idaho your own. So if that's you, please reach out. Also, one other question you can ask. I know that I have a good friend who is basically family, who right now is about to list his house, and he called his cousin up to list his house. And like from my point of view, I'm thinking, oh shoot, you got to compete against, and I know the cousin, unfortunately. And but like, you want to choose, when you choose you want to know where their time is going to be divided, right? Because I am 100% real estate, right? That other the cousin is a broker, so he owns and manages a brokerage, which means he manages other people, which means his time is split. If you're in a brokerage, right, you're giving time back to your agents, which is not a bad thing. He's got, probably because of that, he might have a couple things up his sleeve where he knows a couple things that I might not know. But being in the game so long, is it really the passing a broker test that puts you in that category? When I need to know something, like the other day I had something with what do we have? Some sort of contaminant in the water or something. I can't remember what it was. I just called my broker up. Guess what? 2 minutes later, we had the answer. So we're all competing on the same game. But I think there's three stories I've told this day because I wanted to actually vent a little bit. Can I just be honest? I wanted to vent because there are certain things that happen that that I just can't tell the whole world. There's, like if I have a client who's listing their house too high, can I tell the world? I can't, right? If there's someone who's being an idiot and won't listen to my advice, can I tell the world? No, that's why I told the story of the nays. If there's somebody who chooses another realtor who truly doesn't have the competency and the skills that I do, can I flat out tell them that? I think I could. I think it'd be a losing proposition. And so this is my way of telling the world. This is the way of me telling the world that not all agents are created equal. Choose your agent wisely. Communication, expectations that are met, competency, marketing, negotiation, location, condition, price, those things all play into the sell price of your own home. Well, I'll ask you this. So I'll actually end with one story, and it's a commission story. A lot of you guys don't want to pay high commissions to an agent. I get that. I do get that because it's a lot of money. You sell $1 million home, that's 33 grand to one side, 33 grand to another. That's a lot of money. I would say this before. I could argue a lot of points, but this new point, I was actually thinking about it. This friend of mine, I told him, I said, because 15% of the world, 15% is a bottom price payer. They don't want to pay $1 more than the bottom price, a penny more than the bottom price. That's all they want to pay. It's a race, the low, whatever industry it is, the people who have the lowest cost, that's what's going to buy. It doesn't matter quality, doesn't matter brand, doesn't matter anything. That's what we're gonna buy. And this guy's like, I think you're one of those, are you? He's like, no, listing my house, I think I'd pay. I use a realtor, but buying a house on I think I'd use, myself. I'd just save that money. I said, oh, did you know that the buyer's commission is already negotiated when the seller takes so you're actually just giving the selling agent more money. Did you know? He's like, oh no, then I'd for sure use a buyer's agent. He's like, the problem I have, and this was the cool takeaway. He's like, the problem I have is that why am I going to pay an agent $33,000 on $1 million home? But he or she does the same work on a $500,000 home and takes home half the pay. Let me reverse that with this question. If you were the one that asked me that, and I said, hey, would you hire me to sell your $200,000 home that you used as a rental for the last 10 years? Would you hire me to sell a $200,000 home? And $200,000 in this market obviously is not the upper end of the market. Would you? The answer might be yes, the answer might be no, but I'm going to guess if we're good friends, it leans towards yes. Okay, let's move up to the next price range. $400,000. Would you use me? 500, 700, 900, million, 5 million. Would you use me if I had done no deals to list a $5 million home? Why not? Because the price of that knowledge, the price to obtain that knowledge on different price points, different markets, is worth something, right? I've got a $1 million+ listing coming up, and when we decide to list it at a certain price, and we already have the certain price drop, if we need it, we already have that one already in mind. So we have a clear plan what we're doing. Why? Because I know those numbers. I've never listed a $5 million home before. If I listed a $5 million home before, guess what I have to do? Personally, not everyone does this. I would team up with someone who sold a $5 million home before. Smart, because everyone's more comfortable. I'm more comfortable. My broker who would partner with me is more comfortable. The seller is more comfortable. Everyone's more comfortable, right? So am I doing more work? I would argue that the time to acquire those life skills, negotiating skills, pricing skills are much more valuable at $1 million than they are at $500,000. So just my take. Could be wrong. Would love to hear your guys' take. Jeff says amen to that with a thumbs up. Guys, with that lack of questions, all I want to do is come on an event, and you guys actually allow that, but I would be happy to answer any questions if I hop off. I give you 20 seconds to write a question, write that question in. I am Brian Hymas, Boise Realtor. I am at Boise Premier Real Estate, and this jacket's not why I do this business, and I wasn't even planning on this jacket, but this jacket is the top producer jacket is because of you. I totally appreciate everything you guys do, bring to the table. I really feel like we are one, and we are working towards your goal of moving to Idaho or keeping Idaho by staying here, being strong, keeping true conservative values here. And I do believe that all people are good people, no matter the side of the aisle. I truly believe that. But when it comes to how to run things, I do believe that we are each individually in charge of ourselves, that the government can't usurp power from us, and rather they can give the power that we give them. And I'm not going to rebel. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. It's not my personality. My personality is to lead the life I want to live, to educate, and to be a peacemaker in the process, and to keep Idaho is my goal. So if you are needing to move to Idaho, please do call or text me. My number is on the screen, 208-213-2092. My email, brian@brianhymas.com. Guys, it is my goal. The reason I do these things is to help you as a political refugee come to Idaho and make Idaho your home. With no other questions, we will sign off. Thank you for joining for story time and letting me vent. But also, the vent session wasn't for me. Guys, the vent session is for you. I wanted you guys to consider some of those questions you should be asking to your listing agent. In fact, if you're moving to Idaho and you don't know which questions to ask your agent, because of the network I have, I'm a part of a few groups. I actually have one of my biggest networks I'm part of. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I've got people in my network across the nation who pay high dollar amounts to be a part of things. So these are high producing agents. We subscribe to the same listing theories, buying process, seller's process. So the consistencies you find with me, you'll most likely find with them. And I can vet that for you. I can make a phone call to them beforehand. I can vet that, tell them what my expectation is, and they And in turn, they say thank you to me with a small money amount. That's not the point, though. The point that's just their way of saying thank you, so you know that I'm compensated. Because a lot of people are like, I don't want to do that if you're not going to get compensated. I get compensated. Don't worry about that. Or the point is you. How can you take the best approach to selling your home and buying a home? You partner with the right people, people you trust, people who want to keep Idaho. And if you have to keep California by leaving, let's do it. Get you over here, Washington or Oregon, wherever it might be. And we'll catch you next time, guys. Call, text, email anytime. And I'm happy to help you. Brian Hymas, born and raised in Boise Valley. And it truly is a privilege to serve you and help keep Idaho, Idaho.